listening to The Greg Kelly Show.
I think I'm chatting with the future president of the United States, Brilyn Hollyhand.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you get that all the time. His new book is One Generation Away, Why Now is the Time to Restore American Freedom. Brilyn is, he's the chairman of the RNC's inaugural Youth Advisory Council, and he happens to be 18 years old, but, you feel like you're talking to a two-term senator who's thinking about running for president. Brilyn, welcome. How are you?
Greg, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here in New York. My dad and I are big fans of your show, so this is a true honor to be here.
Well, I so appreciate that. Brilyn, let's talk first things first. How did you get to this stage? You're 18 years old. You're of national importance. You got a book under your belt. We were talking a moment ago. You weren't always political in the earlier part of your life. What was the big moment that made you a political person?
Yeah, so I was 10 years old. It was the 2016 election, and I walked into the living room one night, and that fiery debate between Trump and Hillary was on. It was the one where he said, "I'll put you in jail." And I was like, this is so fascinating. I'm used to growing up watching politicians on the news, be this poised, again, politician, not actually be a relatable, authentic American. And I was like, this is fascinating. So started paying attention to politics because of Trump. It wasn't until the age of 11, the next summer, where I actually got involved. And I was watching the news a little bit more then, paying attention, being a citizen of the country, and said, look, there's a lot going on with the country. There's a lot wrong with America. But don't worry, the adults are going to handle it. It'll be fine. By the time I get up there, the adults have got it. Greg, I kept paying attention, and the adults didn't have it. They didn't handle it. So I got involved.
Wow. I admire your confidence and your surety about the issues. I mean, you're a young man.
Thank you.
I take it you haven't bought a house yet.
Not yet, no sir.
So it's there's something else going on here. I mean, like as it you're God driven or something like that. You've been anointed. I mean, you have very firm ideas about things that you haven't experienced yet, and I think you're right on everything. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, we were just talking a moment ago about my family. I didn't grow up in a political family at all. My mom was a teacher, dad's in construction, not really a political upraising where I was at fundraisers every night, or I was kind of groomed to do this. Like you said, it was just kind of a God thing. And I constantly tell people, and I know you hear the same thing when you talk to people out, is that they don't have hope in America. They constantly hear this phrase of, what's the future going to be like? Is my generation going to grow up in a free America? That's why we wrote the book. But I constantly hear there's no hope. And my answer every time, Greg, is my hope's in Jesus Christ alone, not in any DC bureaucrat. And that's what we tell people over and over alone. That's where we're trying to get our generation back to.
Wow. And I'm sure you see the hand of God busy at work right now. I mean, things are happening that are just kind of awesome,
yes,
right?
They are.
One generation away. Why now is the time to restore American freedom? Okay, what? It sounds obvious, but maybe not. I don't think I can articulate it. Why now? Why is now the time to restore American freedom?
Yeah, so we really believe that my generation coming into this election has the opportunity to flip the script. A Republican president has not won, or presidential candidate has not won the youth vote since 2003. That's a long time. That was well before I was born. And I think that right here, right now, President Trump, currently with an 8-point lead with the youth vote, has the opportunity to make history in November because we can instill these values again. Because my generation's waking up and saying, okay, look, I can't even tell you the amount of people that I've had come up on campus speeches saying, I voted for Biden in 2020, or my parents or grandparents voted for Biden in 2020, and I can't make that same mistake again. I mean, Greg, you mentioned housing a second ago. You remember growing up, graduating from high school, renting your first apartment, going to college, paying expenses kind of independently for the first time. My peers and I are in that era of life, going into that era of life the next few years. And we're going into the era in a Biden administration and a Biden economy, more importantly. That's waking us all up. Another point, I think COVID really radicalized my generation to become conservative. We saw big government at work and in its worst way. Big government told my generation we were stuck out of school for a year and a half. We were horrible, evil human beings who wanted to go visit grandma at Thanksgiving. We had to strap a diaper to our face. We really want to push back against that and get conservative leadership in government again.
Can you tell me a little bit about the RNC's inaugural Youth Advisory Council? I mean, it sounds very august. I mean, what does that actually mean? What are you going to do?
Sure. Yeah. So I started it myself, founded it with the RNC's help in November of 2022. You remember those midterms that Republicans kind of underperformed, and I was frustrated with the party's lack of support then, and said, listen, the RNC has to reach out to Gen Z, and they did. They listened. And it's so great now to work directly with the Trump family, now that the RNC and Trump campaign have merged. Our goal is simple, to reach out to young voters, to have conversations. Previously, the RNC has not been doing that. We're registering young voters on campuses. We're having conversations. Next week, convention. President Trump will be there. We're having roundtables with young people. We're excited to actually talk to them, which is important.
What's the long-term plan for you? Obviously, you got a little thing called college first. Are you going to go?
I am going to college.
do you want to be? What do you want to do? I mean, you could be head of the party someday, head of the country. Where's all this going?
I would say that the current dream, and this could change, the current dream would be to stay out of politics. It's a little too dirty, but to be the next Greg Kelly with some nighttime primetime show after you retire, of course, not to take anything. And to be able to have that opportunity to talk to people, to have conversations, to be in this role for 60, 70 years instead of a 4 to 8 year term, to be able to actually bring about real change, long-term change.
Do you think you can bring about long-term change by being a commentator?
I do. Yes, I do.
What about... Sometimes I'm frustrated by that because, no, seriously, we've been calling out Joe Biden since the campaign of 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, this man is in decline.
Yes.
And I still believe that the mainstream media, the dominant media, unless they recognize something, you have to go out of your way to engage conservative media. If you're just going about your business, you're going to be bombarded with the messages that everything's fine.
Yes.
And that's a big frustration of mine. Care to help me with that?
No, absolutely. The same questions you've been asking on your program every single day since Biden first ran in 2020 are finally now being asked by the White House press corps. Where have they been for the past 4 years, Greg? I mean, you're exactly right. It's just conservative media doing this in a bubble. We've got to get out there and have this conversation because the mainstream media sure isn't doing it. They've been covering for Biden this whole time. Now that they've gotten the talking points from the DNC that Biden's out, they're like, oh, let's do something else. Let's kind of attack him a little bit. We saw Karine Jean-Pierre's press conference was just, she was lambasted by the media. And like, oh, where did this come from? They completely forgot that Trump's 4 press secretaries got that treatment every single day of the week, regardless of what crisis or, controversy was going on.
I know. And I see the correspondence. Oh, wow, they're really stepping out. Now, even I'm not impressed because, as you mentioned, now they have cover. Yes, they have protection to do this. So, all right. Vice President, who do you think it's going to be?
So I would love a Ben Carson. Ben Carson's a really good friend. He endorsed my book, One Generation Away, but he also sat down for 2 interviews. One when he was HUD secretary. That was his last interview before he left office. And more recently when he had a book come out. And so he's been really, really good to me. I think Tim Scott would be great as well. I think kind of a young up and coming, but there's so many options out there. And again, I know people try to predict all the time. You see the New York Times come out with, oh, today we think the VP is going to be this. Nobody knows except Trump. You know Trump very well. And you know that Trump's made this decision. He's kept it very tight. We've been told he'll make an announcement before, early next week. And I'm really interested to see because I think he has the opportunity to win over young voters with his VP pick.
That would be amazing. Could be Mrs. Hollyhand. Do you mind joining us for a moment? Diego's going to turn on your microphone. And hi, Mrs. Hollyhand.
Hi there.
What's your first name?
Lee.
Lee, you told me. And Lee, I mean, how did you do it? Seriously, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And we'd like them to be, along these lines, well-adjusted in every way, it seems. What did you do?
Well, it's not from us at all. As Brilyn said, me nor my husband are political.
But the moorings, the faith. I mean, you had something to do with this.
That all starts in your home. Just taking your kids to church, teaching them about God. The home is where it starts. And people always want to, kind of put things on the backs of other people. The school has to do it, or your church has to do it. No, it all starts at home. And so I know when Brilyn first came to us and wanted to do this, it started out just him emailing just aunts and uncles. His first Truth Gazette email simply went to aunts and uncles. And from that, people started forwarding this email, this article he wrote. He wrote several articles, and we would send them out. And aunts and uncles started forwarding it. And from that, other people started saying, "Can I get added to your list?" And it just kind of has grown. And everything's just taken off. And each step of the way, my husband and I would kind of say, okay, here we are. We now have a website, and now we're going on TV shows or different parts of life. But we've tried to support him and be there for him. And like I said, this is just his passion, and we're supporting him just like you would support anybody that was into athletics or anything else. We said up front that people who play like travel ball, you'll go to whatever city they're playing ball in. You buy them whatever equipment they need. You do exactly what they need to do that sport. Well, this has been his passion, his sport. And so we've supported them all along the way.
I love it. And one more thing. How do you make going to church not an ordeal? Like, let's face it, my girls are kicking and screaming. You know what I mean? Like, you got to induce them. You got to coach them. I want them to, and I wonder, am I setting them up to reject it at some point? You know what I mean? To walk away and well, they have to figure it out like I figured it out. And quite frankly, I want them to not go through the journey I did because it was a long one and a rough one. And, I found out some pretty obvious things way too late. Sorry to put all this on your plate or your plate, Brilyn, but I don't know. Look, that's for another conversation, I guess. That's between me, God, and my family. Brilyn, so you're going to Milwaukee,
yes,
and
sir.
President Trump. What you want? Ben Carson. Let's see. Who's the next president of the next president of the United States? Who do you think is a real, for 2028?
Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Great choice.
Yeah, I think she'd be amazing. She already can go head to head with the press. We saw that firsthand. And she'll have governing experience at that point because she'd be governor for at least 4, maybe 8 years of Arkansas. So again, very close friend, has come on my show again twice, taking the opportunity out of her time as press secretary and as governor to actually do an interview with an 11-year-old. That means a lot. That shows, she really cares about the future of the party and the future of the country. So she has my endorsement for sure.
Wow. Hey, you do an interview with him. He's on your side for any office I run for. No, I get it. One generation away.
Yes,
Why
sir.
Now is the time to restore American freedom. All right. So I so appreciate this. You are a very impressive young man.
I appreciate that.
And don't start drinking. Don't start doing drugs. I obviously, you know all this stuff.
I totally agree.
Is there one area of your life where you think you need advice and you need help, where you are not precocious?
I would say that I could get some advice here on how to balance everything. I mean, balancing a personal life and also doing commentary. That would be some good advice to get from you because, having a family and then also having this gig as well, radio and TV. What's your advice there?
Actually, I need advice on that very issue. I can't help you. I have 90 free minutes in the morning, and that's it. And that's it. So, weekends are, weekends, but I'm just kind of bouncing around right now. So I'm still trying to figure it out. Brilyn Hollyhand, look for this guy on television. Where can we get your podcast, please?
Yeah, so the book's available right now at release this morning. You can get signed copies at brylynbook.com. My podcast is available everywhere podcasts are available.
All right, Brilyn Hollyhand. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Remember us when, remember us when you get there. Thanks for being with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Greg Kelly.
Economists warned that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and 401k as the stock market braces for impact. I'm Larry Kudlow, and I urge you to fortify your savings with physical gold with my friends at Priority Gold. To learn how gold and silver can help diversify your savings, please call 1-800-405-GOLD or just visit PriorityGold.com to get a free gold information guide. That's 1-800-405-GOLD.